Well, the thing I really want to do, the main thing to do today, is to kind of try and be very practical and look at the iPhone and how you can use it as a multimedia journalist. But I wanted first just to give you a kind of a bit of a context and to think about mobile presences. I suppose, can we have a show of hands? Who's got a smartphone? Okay, cool. Okay, I mean that's probably about 25-30%. That's about right for the population. About 25-30% of people have got iPhones, or rather smartphones. So that means that they are capable of receiving us. Why do you need a mobile presence? Well, the simple answer is because loads of people are going to be there. And it's really interesting, the people who, even though they're big corporations, haven't quite kind of got round the sort of the techniques and the practicalities of it. For instance, I subscribe to a lot of email bulletins, and these days I read them on my iPhone. That's where I go through my email. And there was one email from Top Gear. So I clicked on a link there, and it took me, rather than to something which was optimized for mobile reading, it took me to their main website. And in the tiniest letters, I could see, if you're on a mobile device, click here. And I'm trying to click with my huge giant's finger on this little link. And that's like a simple mistake that even the BBC, with all their wealth and expertise and all the rest of it, are still making. Also, I'd like to start with a bit of context as well about the web and where the web is going. You may have heard talk about Web 3.0, if not that, perhaps Web 2.0. But this is the way the web developed. Initially, we had what has now, in retrospect, become known as Web 1.0, which was when commerce drove things. So that was when Amazon and eBay were really driving the development of the web. It was really about commerce. Of course, we've always had content, but we've always struggled to monetize our content. We've struggled to make money as journalists, as publishers, out of content on the web. And that's been a real problem. It was a real problem for me at the Times and all sorts of other places. It's really difficult. But I think that we're about to solve that issue. So that was Web 1.0. Web 2.0 is the kind of social media where we're at now. And it's really community that's driving things. See how fast things move. If I was talking to you probably 2 years ago, I'd be banging on about MySpace. Now I'm banging on about Facebook. 500 million subscribers to Facebook, the place that people like to be. If there's one place, the most popular place in the world that people like to be, it's on Facebook. So a lot of publishers are thinking, okay, people really like to be on Facebook. They might like sort of to be on my website, but not as much as they like being on Facebook. So how do I get my stuff on Facebook? How do I get my material in front of this new and developing audience? And that's really where Web 3.0 comes in, because publishers are now thinking, okay, how are we going to merge these things? We've got our content. We're still basically in the content business. We're struggling to make our content relevant to this new generation of users, and we're also struggling to work out how to make some money out of it. But what's happening with the web and Web 3.0 is that these things are coming together. It sounds slightly pretentious, but people are talking about a web of connectedness, where content, commerce and community all come together. And there are a couple of things added, which are just, these are the sort of headline things, and I'll explain them because they're slightly abstract. So as well as content, commerce and community, we're going to get context, which is about the individual and their situation and location. And also personalization, vertical search which is about you, as opposed to search which is generic and the same for everybody. And context, this is the person's characteristics and taste. Commerce is the opportunity to buy products or services. Content is the information I want from the sources I trust and need to keep abreast of. So that's the area, that's where hopefully as publishers and journalists we can have an influence and we can make some money, in fact, and create some jobs. And there's community, the opportunity to discuss issues with social connections. And then personalization and vertical search, which is really the development of intelligent search engines that learn from your browsing habits. This is an app. This is from Condé Nast. This is an iPhone app for Vogue Stylist it's called. And this is very interesting because this is one example of the way a publisher is looking at Web 3.0, looking at the iPhone and thinking, how can I get into this? How can I, in fact, own a bit of it? And the great strength that a publisher like Vogue has, any title has, is the trust, sometimes affection, sometimes enjoyment that people have in that particular title, in that content, trusted content which they choose and like. So what what Condé Nast through Vogue has decided is that it's going to see if it can create applications which bring these things together: commerce, community, content, and personalization, vertical search. So, and of course, there's a lot about privacy at the moment. What you have to do, if you want to kind of be part of this as an individual, you have to give information away. And a lot of people are understandably cautious and nervous about giving away too much about themselves. The hope with Vogue is that because you trust Vogue, you will do that. You need to do that in order to kind of participate in this Web 3.0. If you don't want to, I entirely understand. It's something that worries me and I'm sure worries everyone as well. But if I choose to share information, then this app can work for me. Not personally for me, because I'm not exactly a typical Vogue reader, but as an example. So the context here is the reader's personal style and characteristics, so that the app starts to build up a picture of you. You have to share with it. And then there's the commerce side of it. And this is where Condé Nast can make some money, because it can put in front of this reader, this Vogue app reader, the products from particular stores. So all kinds of connections are possible, all sorts of links. Content, my personal Vogue. Now, this is, again, the interesting thing about content, because we create, as journalists, we create content. Traditionally, we've created it, in my background, print, we created stuff for print. If you're in any of the other media, you're creating stuff principally for that media. But your content can actually be chopped and selected and delivered through an app like this to an individual. So if I say, I really like designer X, but I hate designer Y, and I want some suggestions, if I want some suggestions for what to wear tonight when I'm going out to an event, it will pick from my preferences. It will pick from the things I've said I like and dislike. And of course, my personal Vogue. Now, anyone could create this app, and it's perfectly possible that an aggregator might decide it's going to create an app called Fashion Stylist, and it's going to seek to take content or buy content from individual brands, Vogue and its rivals. Now, that's clearly a threat to Vogue, so Vogue has decided to try and own this space. Then you've got community. Well, okay, you can chat through the app with your friends, but you can also see what other people like you, as you've defined yourself, are buying. And the personalization of vertical search comes in because it searches built on a knowledge base about me and my taste. Okay. Now, you've probably seen on something like Amazon, it tries to give you suggestions from what you've bought about what you might want to buy. It's pretty clunky, actually. It suggests stuff that, is not particularly relevant in my experience. But what the Web 3.0 will seek to do, these kind of applications will seek to do, is to perfect them, focus them, and actually make them relevant and work. And the thing that I think is the killer bit of this app, actually, you can't see that, I don't think. But the top, there are two buttons here, and the bottom one says wardrobe. What that means is they are using another element of the phone, which is the fact it's got a camera. So if you want, you can take pictures of things from your wardrobe and add them to look. So you're thinking about a particular look. You can add them to it. You can say to your friends, does this look good with this? So it brings that whole kind of idea about buying clothes, being interested in fashion, getting dressed, all the rest of it, into an application. And I think the challenge for us as journalists is to be thinking about this, to be thinking about wherever we work, whatever we're seeking to do, is how can we be a part of this new generation where you've got commerce, context, vertical search, personalization, and content coming together. And a lot of the work I do is with publishers. For instance, I do a lot of work at Haymarket, and I do a course which is designed to get journalists, often quite senior editors of particular titles, to look at this kind of development and to think, what will be relevant for us? So, for instance, if I'm talking to journalists on magazine, they're thinking about this and thinking, okay, context. Well, what have we got? We've got a buyer's guide. Okay, we've got a database of every car, how good it is, how bad it is, the good points, the bad points, and so on. That database is sitting there, and it can be accessed in all sorts of ways. It can be accessed through an app, and if you personalize it, it can be incredibly valuable. So I'm out buying a car, and I actually know nothing about cars. If I'm looking at a second-hand car, it's a 3-year-old Ford Focus. What do I need to know about this car? Is there anything that should worry me about it? What things should I ask the the person selling it. They can give me that kind of advice. They can also, and they told me this is perfectly possible, you can key in the registration number of that car through this app that they think they'd quite like to develop, and that'll tell you, is there a problem with that car? Has it been nicked? Has it been written off? Is there a problem with it? Now, that's obviously incredibly valuable. That content is incredibly valuable. And so the answer to the question that they're asking, how can we create content that can be personalised and which we could make money out of, is, well, if we can give people a brilliant service on their iPhone or another mobile device when they're at the point of buying a car, it could be really valuable and useful. Okay, so now that kind of app, well, to create that sort of app, you need a lot of skill and a lot of expense. We can't do that. But any of us can create apps. We can create apps to mobilise our content. So here's a quick look at what you can do yourself. If you have a blog, hands up anyone's got a blog. Okay. Has anyone got a mobile version of that blog? Brilliant. One or two people have got mobile versions of that blog. To create a mobile version of that blog, you need one simple piece of information, and that's the feed URL. Okay? Any blog you've got, somewhere you will find, here's your feed URL. That's the URL, and you take that URL, and that's the only information you need to create a mobile site. I use a couple of free mobile site creators, Mipin and Zinadu. Mipin is a very good one for creating a mobile version of a blog. This is just a screen grab of how you build it. And this is, I'm actually here at stage 2. What I've done here is I've already personalized things. I've created a color scheme. What this is a mobile version of a blog which I have, which is also allied to a book about multimedia journalism and a website and so on. And I want to be able to present some of that content in a mobile context. So if you can see just in there, that's the feed URL. All I had to do was paste that in, and immediately it creates a mobile site for me. All I've done is I've sorted out the color scheme, and I've made a little logo, and it tells you how to do that. You can do that in Picnic or in Photoshop or whatever device you've got access to. But what I really like about this is it's presented it in an incredibly professional looking way. I mean, that kind of funny little arrow logo means there's a video with it. It's turned the headline of any of my posts into the text title, and it's got a link which says read. And if I had a picture, it will put the picture there instead of the video or whatever. So literally in 10 minutes, I can create that. I can create a mobile version of my site. It also gives you a little button that you can paste on your blog or wherever, just to say to people, in big letters rather than small, don't make the mistake of Top Gear, here's the mobile version. If you found me on a mobile device, this is how you can actually read me on that mobile device.